Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Underground Railroad Productions. This your host, Brother Rich. I'm outside with the brother. I'm honored to be with the brother Mfundishi again. This brother is going to be speaking at the Comedic Conference in December. Sanet is putting it together. So before we get into the interview, I want the brother to give some information on what the people can expect and you know, whatever else he wants to tell you before we get into this interview.
Hotep family, I want to say Ankh Uja Seneb Neb. I offer you satisfaction, peace, and harmony. Basically, my contribution will be about the Madu Necha, the importance of Madu Necha, so that we can learn our legacy firsthand. Most of our scholars are not research scholars. They just regurgitate what they read in the book by somebody else. Unfortunately, most of the work done on Egyptology is done by European scholars who lack the information of our history, lack the information of our cultural understanding, and they lack the knowledge of nature, especially dealing with the African continent. And the ancient Kemetu were masters of nature. And so when we talk about the Madu Necha, that language is still spoken in many different ethnic groups on the African continent, like Wolof, Mandingo, Fulani. All these places still have Madu Necha words in them, and Coptic. And I want to be able to bring that out, because there are some people who think that no one can speak Madu Necha. But we know the grammar, we know the vocabulary. Like I say, I belong to a Swahili Madu Necha group, where a lot of the Swahili words are still in Madu Necha. There's some group from Fulani, people who speak Ashanti Tree, and still Madu Necha words are still in there. And so we can speak the language, we understand the culture. I speak 7 different African languages, and I understand the culture of East Africa. I grew up in East Africa, so I understand intricately what that culture is about. And Madu Necha is an African culture from the Happy Valley. So that's my contribution, to give people some hands-on things on how they can learn the Madu Necha, how to get some background and backup, so that they can empower themselves. It's important for us to be able to, it's important for us as African people not to take anybody else's word about our legacy. You see, culture is your medicine. The Europeans lack the cultural information in order to feed you. So therefore you're excited about what they write in their books, but they can't feed your soul. They can't feed your spirit. Your culture is your medicine. And so when you understand your culture, and then you understand the nature of Necha, then the Madu Necha will speak to your DNA. And that's what I try to get people to do. I want them to be able to firsthand understand this legacy, because there's more Madu Necha than all the ancient language put together, multiplied by 10. So it's important for us to understand. And I want to reiterate, the Madu Necha is our classical language. Our classical language. That means that's the best we have to offer. So don't listen to people when they say no one can speak the Madu Necha. You know, that's a fallacy, and we as African people shouldn't be spreading things like that. Just say that you don't speak Madu Necha. You don't understand it. But don't say that nobody understands it. That's ridiculous. Again, my teacher is Sister Riketi Amon in the Madu Necha, Dr. Jacob Crothers, the founder of the Comedic Institute, and these people were efficient in the Madu Necha. I've also spent some time with Thea Binga, and another one of my colleagues who wrote a book, May the Ancestors Speak, Rami Jet. We could speak the Madu Necha. Brother Abanachi from Detroit speaks and writes the Madu Necha. There's a Detroit study group. So there are plenty of people here in America that know the Madu Necha. And on the African continent, there's budding chematologists. So I want to put people in contact. I'm not the only one who speaks it here. I teach it from a spiritual perspective because I'm a Kemetic priest. And not a self-acclaim. Dr. Jacob Crothers appointed me, and then I was ordained also in Ethiopia. You know, so I've studied. I've been to Egypt over 25 times, studying, not as a tourist. I was Dr. Ben's assistant 5 times. And I've been to Ethiopia, Sudan with Dr. Ben, and several other people. So, I just want people to know that this is not a feel-good session. This is not an ego session. You can learn the Medu Neter. Okay, Brother Rich, any questions now?
Yeah, I want some clarity on this concept of matriarch society versus a patriarch society. It seems as though a lot of people place blame on the problems in the society we live in because they say it's a patriarch society, which is backwards. It's reverse of, the way it was in ancient Kemet. So I guess I want to ask you to start out with, I remember watching the debate years ago with Hillary and Obama when they was running at the Democratic debate. And I remember during the debate, Hillary broke down and started crying. And I remember people saying, man, that's why a woman can't run this shit. They too emotional. And you hear that all the time. We debate, we trying to figure out what's going on with the nation, and you gonna start crying? Ain't no time for tears. We trying to lead a whole nation of people. You gotta have a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of courage. So I need you to elaborate on, are women too emotional to run a society? And if they are, that throws that whole matriarch thing out the window. Please elaborate on that, Mfundishi.
Okay, first of all, we can't base the matrilineal society on a white woman. So that's number one. Okay, but women in general, yes, they're more emotional, but that's because they're more in tune with nature. And they can feel things that sometimes we as male cannot. Ancient Kemet was a matrilineal society. The male ruled, but he ruled through the woman. So she gave him the right to rule. And I need to say this, when Hatshepsut Aman was the ruler of ancient Kemet, for 24 years it was extremely efficient. She was a builder, an organizer. She led trade, commerce. Kemet did not go into a decline because a woman was ruling. Let me just say this, in Ethiopia you had the Candaces. That was 1,000 years of women rulers who ruled a powerful nation that was on par with ancient Kemet. And so yes, women can rule just like the men can, but you need a good support system in order to be able to have that happen. Unfortunately, here in America, we don't have a good support system because it's a male-dominated society. And so that's what's going on. What happened when you have a different mindset? You heard me say like we're upside down, inside out, and backwards. So if you're thinking like that, then no, women can't rule. And that's because of your attitude, not because of her inadequacies. So women have the same right. Remember, Kemet was a matriarchal system. No ceremonies took place without powerful women there to lead. No ceremonies could happen in ancient Kemet. They were priestesses and teachers just like the male. But again, they understood that the aggression and the outer dominance of the male, so the female allowed the male to rule. And so you had a balance here. You had the giver of the throne and then the person who sat on the throne. If you even look at the word Asar, the eye is sitting on top of the throne, where the woman, Aset, is the throne. And so I wanted, just to be able to show that phenomenon.
I'm glad you elaborated on that, brother. I was talking to the brother Turtle Gang, shout out to Turtle Gang, and he was kind of said the same thing you said, and me and the brother Turtle Gang was talking about, regardless of what was going on in society, when I guess when black family functioned at its best, there was what you would call a big mama in the house, and big mama regulated the household. Right, that's the matriarchy. So I guess it's innate in us, it's intuitive in us to have big mama, regardless of how strong the men were. We had that big mama in the house who ran everything. So that would be like a microcosm of what you're talking about. All right, so what happened to the demise of Big Mama in Black America, in your opinion? Why we don't see Big Mama like we used to see Big Mama no more. She disappeared.
Big Mama disappeared because the black family broke down. You had a support system. Even though Big Mama was there was a papa there. There was a father there. And you had a strong family unit. And Big Mama made sure that everybody came to Sunday dinner. Today, people are fast food. They had McDonald's, Mickey D, Burger King, you know. So Big Mama cooked that meal. And she was responsible for making sure you came home on Sunday. And she didn't want to hear no excuse. And so now, we don't have women who are raised like that today. So, you know, the women are in an instant disposal. I remember I asked a sister one time, you know, can you cook? And her response was, can you cook? You know. And so we have a whole different mindset. Women pride themselves with cooking and keeping the house and making sure that the children were well done. So when the black family broke down, father missing, daughters not being raised correct, so these daughters are not thinking like the Big Mama was thinking. They're thinking independence. I got mine. I'm making my own money. You know, so they're thinking like that. So they're thinking like men are thinking. In one of my poems, I talk about that black women are imitating white women who are imitating white men who are destroying the world. So that's what's happening. That's why there's no Big Mama. Because our sisters are trying to be just like white women, independent and bold, and that's not a Big Mama. Made sure you respect the man. She made sure you respect the home, and she made sure the family unit was intact.
Now, black women get a whole lot of criticism in this society because of the, you know, the whole independent attitude. You have songs like "Independent Ladies" from Beyonce, I believe it is. Now, one thing I noticed, I grew up in a single-parent household, raised by a woman, my mother. The thing I noticed was that when I was young, my mother was more aggressive. And I'm trying to figure out, did she have to be that way because there was no man in the household? Because I noticed once I got older, 18, 19, I noticed the aggression went away and I see more feminine side of her. She was more laid back and relaxed. So do you feel like women have to think, as Steve Harvey says, think like a man, act like a woman just to function in society? Because if the man's out of the home and you're telling her to act like a woman and think like a woman, she may not make it in the concrete jungle we call America.
Brother Rich, that was a very good point. And yes, you were right on point. Because what happens when there is no man in the house and you have young children, the woman has to play a strong, she has to be mama and papa. Right, so you got testosterone all over the place. You know, she got to produce that, you know. And so the whole feminine thing might be on the down low, you know. And she has to do that in order to make sure that the kids just don't go just totally wild. As it is, they out of control. But she has to do that. But now, once the child gets older, you notice she bump heads with a strong boy coming up. Once that boy gets 15, 16, 17, you know, she has to lighten up just a little bit. And that's why it's important to have extended family. You want to exchange? Okay. So if there's no man in the house, then you need to get uncles, cousins, you know, somebody, nephews, somebody coming by to aid out. But as long as the family is broke, see, the Europeans understood that if they broke down the family structure, then they would be able to control black life and dictate it. And that's what's happening right now. They actually control it. I remember back in the 60s, Amama Amiri Baraka said that the best African Studies department was the FBI, because they knew our eating habits, our mating habits, our sleeping habits, our party habits. They knew everything about us more than any institution. No African Studies in a college was equal to what the FBI has. And right now, as African people, we haven't done our proper research to reverse that. You know, and that's why rites of passage is so important. So if you're a single woman, make sure your son is going through some form of rites of passage with some men. Women can't send a boy through rites of passage program. And if you're concerned, you need to be forming groups to send your female, your daughters, through a rites of passage of women. So that's what, you know, that's what needs to happen. Because gangs, believe it or not, is a rites of passage. When there's no man in the house, a strong gang leader becomes Baba. And he's giving out commands and giving them things to do. And so it's important for people to understand rites of passage. We've gotten away from that. I know churches now are starting to do rites of passage program. That's just messing the kid up more, because you got him running after Jesus or running after somebody else. And he needs to learn how to be captain of his own ship. Yes, believe in a spiritual energy, but he needs to understand that the Creator resides inside of him and that he needs to man up. He needs to learn how to man up. And so that's what that rites of passage gives you, responsibility. And it shows you how to keep the family intact. Most young boys don't know how to be men because they don't have no men there to show them. Women can care for them, but women can't show them how to be a man. Okay, it's just like an elephant can't show a lion how to be a lion. You know, it just doesn't happen like that. You need another lion to show them. So hopefully that I answered. In a society
where a lot of women strive for what they call equality, I've heard Dr. Phil Valentine say one time that we're not equal, we're compatible. Now, complementary, yes, exactly. Now, a lot of the housewife is looked down upon right now. If a woman is asked by her peers, what do you do for a living? And she says, well, I'm a housewife. They'll say, oh man, that bitch ain't got no job, man. She stay at home and don't do shit. That's what I've heard it. I've sat there, fly on the wall, and heard it time and time again. So a lot of women don't even say they strive to have careers. From your study of ancient Kemet and comparing it to now, modern day society, do you see anything wrong with women having careers, like a woman wanting to be a construction worker, or a woman wanting to work 45 hours a week, 50 hours a week, because a man works it? So she feels as though if she's denied that privilege to work like a man, then that means that she's being discriminated upon. What do you think about that?
Again, it goes back to whoever controls the situation, it defines the situation. What happened is that because we're totally out of balance, then you begin to think things that's out of balance is natural. And so women want to be able to compete, because the male, the black male in particular, hasn't been economically strong in America. The female has had to pick up the slack. But what has happened is that's thrown the whole family ecology out of balance. And so you want your sons and your daughters to grow up to be strong in a household, but if mama is not there, you talked about the big mama before. If somebody worked and everything, Big Mama was there to make sure the kids were taken care of. But that ingredient is missing now. We don't believe in the, we don't believe in a system where there's more than one wife at home. And so today, having the women working 45 hours and still have children, there's going to be a problem. The children are raising themselves, or being raised by TV. Or the babysitter, who don't have their best interests, so values are not being taught. And then we wonder why the family's not working. And so the key is that the male has to be able to take care of the financial situation. When that's not happening, then it forces women to go to work. But if you can have a balance, you know, naturally, you know, women should be there, and they have the right to have jobs and careers. But now, don't expect to have a strong family unit. Don't expect to have children, you know, sisters who know how to take care of kids and who know how to raise their society. That's probably not going to happen. So there's a downside to that. The upside is, yes, you can make as much money as the male, basically. But the downside is that you're not going to have a strong family unit. You're going to be you're going to be forfeiting something else, forfeiting that great mothering that used to happen. And some women can pull it off, but that's a small percentage. So I'm not saying some women can't do it, but it's a small percentage. You know, so you're sacrificing family, and what happened is that, Brother Rich, we're sacrificing the next generation. That's what happened. So if things are out of whack now, what do you think 2, 3 generations from now kids are going to look like? It's going to be totally out of control. And so at some point, things have to change. And the changing thing is that we need to get in control of our society. We need to have communities where we develop our own employment, where we control our own housing, where we control our own food. Then it allows the women to be able to raise the children. It allows them to maybe have careers where they're working with the children, or careers where their children can be with them. Okay.
I want to ask you about something that women get looked down upon a lot, and that's her period. When she's on her period, or she menstruates. I've heard people say that's a curse on women. I read a sister posted something on Facebook saying that that's a very sacred time for women, and that society got it all twisted and out of whack. We all know women are. We talked about women being emotional, and the idea some people feel them not being able to control the society because their emotions. They're extra emotional. If you're with a woman at home, you know they can be extra emotional during that time when they're menstruating. What do you, from studying ancient Kemet, to dispel the myths about this whole when a woman menstruates and this and that, what can you tell me? What was going on in antiquity? What were they saying about what's going on with a woman, her inside, outside? What's going on when she's menstruating? Is that a good time? I heard some people say you could drink the blood. I've heard all types of things throughout the years. Could you elaborate on that for me?
Okay, first of all, Rich, I want to make it clear to all my readers that Mfundishi is not a specialist in women issues. Okay, so I just need I need to make that clear. When what I'm talking now, I'm going to talk about from ancient Kemet perspective. And that was that, remember, they had a great support system. Women had what they call special houses that women came to when they were on their menstruation. There was a support system that's not in place today. And so just like you had a birthing houses, you had a great women's society where women came together and they got each other's back. Today we don't have that. You notice that when you're in a household with several women, the women are so synchronized with each other that they will all start having their period almost at the same time. That'll happen. Even though one maybe used to have it at the beginning of the month, another one had it at the end of the month, if they're living together, that close knit, it'll move so that both of them are having their period almost at the same time. But there used to be a support system that allowed women to come to each other's aid. So we don't have that today. So women have to be able to function 24/7. When women become very masculine in their energy, sometimes they don't even have, like women athletes. Some women athletes don't even have periods. They miss that because their body has low fat. And so they're almost like men. They just don't have a phallus. So it's important for women to have a great support system. So during that time, we need to be able to develop that. And men have to be very understanding that during this particular time, that women are a little bit more emotional and need to be able to have a little bit more attention. So hopefully that will be able to pull people in a correct situation. But remember, in ancient Kemet, different society. The women, even though they worked, some of them worked in the fields and some of them had crafts and stuff like that, they basically took care of the children in the household. Today we're in a different society and that doesn't exist like that. Unfortunately, women have to work in a lot of cases. When they don't have to work, that's a great thing. It's not looked down upon for a woman to be a stay-at-home moms. There's a lot of, that situation needs to be able to happen if they can afford it.
Once again, I'm glad you said that. I'm just trying to understand this from an ancient Kemet perspective. So put that out there once again for the people. I'm trying to figure out what was different in ancient society than what's going on today. So the support system. You keep stressing that, right?
polygamy. In the more wealthier homes, you had polygamy. And so a woman had a set of sisters that worked with her. So if she was working, there was another wife there that took care of the children. There might be another one there that's just doing the cooking and cleaning. So you had a tremendous support system. We don't have that today.
You hear that, fellas? If you don't have money, polygamy's out of the question, fellas. But moving on. One thing about ancient Kemet and Mfundishi I always hear about is how much they studied nature. They studied the animals, they studied nature constantly. And they base their life, even the Metal Netta I think is based on the study of nature. So, with that being said, when you study the Lion Kingdom, and that's one of the most revered animals, I noticed that, I was watching Nat Geo one time, and I noticed that the woman would go and hunt the food. The men chill like they chilling, they just chilling. He taking care, exactly, he taking care of the kids. So if we study nature so much in ancient Kemet, why did we reverse it? And why are the men going to work and the women chilling? Or not chilling, but taking care of the home? Because in the Lion Kingdom, the men just, they wait for the woman to bring the food for them and then they get to eat first. Could you elaborate on that?
Okay, now, that example you have to be very careful of, because food in this situation depends upon your speed and agility. It just so happened that the woman was faster, more lean, more agile, so she was a swifter hunter, okay? So it wasn't that the male didn't hunt, the male lion goes out and hunts too, but the woman was quicker, keener, and so the man's main job was protection. Watch this. If a female lioness catches a prey, like let's say a deer, hyenas, 2 or 3 hyenas will come and attack her and take her prey. So the lion is there to protect. Nobody takes the lion's prey. So when the lion comes, the hyenas book up. I don't care if it's 5 or 6 hyenas and 1 lion, he can deal with them. But they will attack a female lioness. So, you know, so you got this give and take. So it had to do. So, but in our domain, we needed strength as opposed to speed. So that's why the man became the hunter and the animals dealing with humans. So there's just a different scenario. So, and again, it's because we studied nature. We knew that. Okay, all right. So remember though, in nature, the most vicious species on almost all animals is the female.
That's deep. There's a lot of things that in this society that we attribute to men and things that we attribute to women. The color pink. We feel as though we attribute that as a feminine color. Women should wear the color pink. Dresses. This thing with dresses has been a huge topic the past 2 years, with more black men wearing dresses, whether it's in the hip-hop industry, Young Thug, or whether it's in the fashion industry or just in, you know, rap videos or whatever. More men are wearing like kilt-like looking dresses. So one of the arguments has been, once again, I'm trying to get this from an ancient Kemet perspective, one argument has been that, hey, in antiquity, men used to wear dresses. So could you elaborate for me on, and also in ancient Kemet, you see men wearing makeup. So could you, do you attribute that to the men being more feminine, what we would call feminine in antiquity, or it was just a different perspective on things, Mfundishi?
No, I appreciate the question. If I understand correctly, you want to know about the fashions, especially particularly men wearing dresses. Let me just say this here. Men never wore dresses in ancient Kemet. They wore like a lapa, or like what we would call almost like a skirt or a long robe. But they didn't wear dresses. And no African society where men wore dresses. When you see them wearing like a lapa, a wraparound skirt, that was before pants. Remember, pants is more modern. At one time, nobody had pants on, okay? So pants is a modern thing. And those tight pants was designed by European homosexuals. Okay, so we understand that. High heels, European homosexuals trying to accent their butt. And now we got the women doing it. Because guess what? Homosexuals control the garment industry and the fashions for women. So I need to put that out there. But no, we never wore dresses. Even when I was young in Africa, we wore lappers. I didn't wear no pants until I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Okay, so it had nothing to do with femininity, movement. It had to do with just the style, the culture. So no men wore dresses in Kemet, okay? Now, men did not wear makeup in terms of makeup the way we think of it. They wore eyeliners and stuff like that. That was because the black reflected the sun. Just like a football player puts black liner underneath it so that if he's catching the ball, he can see. So that's what happened. Men and women put that liner around their eyes to, so that they can see in the bright sun. Because remember, Kemet is in the tropics. And people who are living near the equator, the sun is intense. And so you needed that reflection. But they wasn't putting rouge on their face and lipstick on and things of that nature. No, that didn't take place in Kemet. Only the eye makeup.
As far as intuition, we're always told that, well, intuition to me is like the greatest gift in the world. When I need an answer and I tap into my intuition, it's right 100% of the time. So like, if anybody asks if I do anything good in this world, it's because I follow my intuition. I just got to put that out there. With that being said, intuition is always attributed to females. Some people say that, I heard a sister told me one time that it's not that women are naturally more intuitive, it's that men are trained because of the bruteness of society. They have to put their intuition to the side to use different, just to survive in this society. A woman naturally more intuitive. Did God naturally give her the greatest gift in the world? Because a lot of people think physical strength is the greatest gift. But I feel as though intuition is like, man, hands down, you can't lose with that when it comes to business, relationships, anything. So are they naturally just have the greatest gift in the world? Or we just, because of society, we don't know how to tap into it?
I appreciate that question. And again, Brother Rich, you kind of like almost answered your own question. Okay, first of all, let me make this statement. Does a falcon have to have falcon lessons on how to be a falcon? He knows exactly what he's supposed to do because he has what? Instinct. Instinct. Remember, Rich, we are animals. We have instinct. People just call our instincts intuition. Intuition and instincts is the same thing. So now let me answer the question by saying this. All of the Creator's creatures have instinct and intuition. We've been programmed as human beings not to listen to ours because they want you to listen to Jesus or listen to Muhammad or listen to some God or listen to some saint outside so that I can control you, as opposed to listening to the Creator inside. It just so happened that men, because it's a male-dominated society, males have been programmed to listen to these outer rules as opposed to the inner rules. Women, because it's not a woman's society, has to depend upon her inner instinct in order to function. Because the society is not on her side. Right. Yeah, so, think about this. Men are programmed into sports, so you have team sports, and you have a leader. And you can't make up your play, the leader makes up the play. Right? So in a society, it's the corporate head. The workers don't be thinking of what needs to do, the corporate head. Politics, the governor, so you always have this male overhead, so he doesn't want people to think, to use their intuition. Anybody in America that goes to school, their public school, high school, or you're involved in a religion, they teach you not to use your instinct, not to use your God-given gift. It just so happened because this is a male-dominated society and women are left out, they have to use theirs. So it's not that they have a greater gift, we both have equal gifts. It's just that we have been ours has been programmed away from us. But if you look at the greatest philosophers are men, the greatest writers are men, some of the greatest cooks are men, they're using intuition. But they've allowed this to come through. instincts. When you look at somebody like, look at a football player like the great guys, that, you know, O.J. Simpson, Jim Brown and them. That's instinct on the field. No one win the cut, turn, switch, break a tackle. Look at Michael Jordan on the basketball court, LeBron and them. That's instinct. Okay, so we have it. It's just in the regular society, because it's a male-dominated society, they want you to follow the corporate head. Women are not necessarily used to following the corporate head. So that's the major difference.
Just about 2 more questions, Brother Mfundishi. This is an amazing interview, and I thank you once again. There was a whole, once again, from an ancient Kemet perspective, that's what this whole interview is based on. There was a whole, the woman is God movement going on in, you know, in the conscious movement for the last couple of years, where they're saying that in ancient Kemet, in ancient, not just Kemet, but in ancient civilizations, before we had the male deities, we would worship the woman deities. So before there was Allah, there was a lot. That's just one example. Now, from an ancient Kemet perspective, do you attribute what we call God to being a woman or to being a man? Is it better for us to attribute God as a woman because women naturally give birth? Do you see any do you see any point in doing that?
Okay, I appreciate the question, but I want to rephrase it just a little bit, Rich. What happened is that we're actually even asking that question from a Eurocentric perspective. Let me just say this here. The nature, or what you call God, is not male or female. That is backward human beings who want to control you, want to make God in a woman stance or in a man stance. But remember, the Creator is beyond male and female. I hope that's clear. The Creator is beyond male and female. Those are human characteristics, and we're talking about some divine energy that's responsible for all things. It's not masculine or feminine. Universal masculine energy is given, and universal feminine energy is given. Up and down, in and out is just for human beings, or just for people in the physical. But if I'm talking about something in the spiritual, that becomes irrelevant. Okay? So I need to make that statement. In ancient Kemet, from its inception, there was always a trinity. So if I just go, when Kemet came into existence, you had Khnum, Anuket, and Saset. Then you had Ptah, Sekhmet, Nefer-Atum. Then when Ra came on, you had Ra, Het-Haru, Atum. Then when Amen came on, you had Amen, Mut, Khonsu. Then you had Asar, Aset, Haru. There was always this trinity. And so I need to, you know, for you to understand that. But even the head of all the trinities was usually the masculine energy, even though it was a matrilineal system. The head of the trinity was always, you had Khnum, Ptah, Ra, Amun, Asar. Those were all universal masculine energies, okay? But the trinity was always important. The female carried just about as much weight. The great mother, you needed that energy. And then the offshoot, Jehuti. Then you had Shashat and Ma'at. You know, so you still had these, you know, these trinities going on. So male and female. So God is not male, God is not female. So I'm not on either one of their sides, okay? God was not a woman. The nature is beyond gender. And don't confuse nature with God. A lot of people translate that. The nature is God. No. The nature is the total existence of all things. The nature is your heartbeat. It's the beat in between the heart. The nature is a bug. It's Kepler. The nature is insects. And nature is the water. Nature is all living things. God, you don't look at God like that. God is some omnipotent creature out in space controlling stuff that you pray to. The nature is divinity, and that divinity exists within you. Within you. The nature operates through you. So if you want to see what the nature looks like, and you're a male, the nature is male. If you're a female and you want to know what nature looks like, the nature is in you. The nature is a female. But nature is all.
Oh, you wanted to explain those?
Again, when we talked about the Medu nature, I wanted to always talk about culture. And so in ancient Kemet, culture became extremely important. So if you look here, I have some a helmet statue. I have some mask here. Well, no, not from ancient Kemet, from Eastern and Central Africa. And they operated just like in ancient Kemet, just like the Netcheru. If you look at Jhuty, that's a mask. Nobody actually looked like that. That's if you understand symptomatic thought versus just symbolic thought. Well, we did the same thing here in Western Africa. This concept is still consistent. So we have some symptomatic thought, and we express it through a symbolic thought entrance. Like when we have Haru and Set, that's depicted in a mask like this. One side is Haru and one side is Set. And that's an eternal battle that all humans have to go through. Hopefully Haru wins out. So I wanted just to show that we can't be afraid of our culture. So this is coming from the Congo, Cameroon, you know, Central Angola, Central Africa, Chad, you know. So I'm just trying to show this whole concept of symptomatic thought and symbolic thought. But the symbolic thought doesn't mean anything if you don't understand symptomatic thought. And so it becomes extremely important. Like this nature, Nehe, he represents eternity. And you notice on his arm is an Ankh, because life is eternal. Energy cannot be destroyed. So that's another example. Energy is the creator. So if energy cannot be destroyed, the creator cannot be destroyed. Everything is within and divine. Nothing is outside of the creator, or the creator wouldn't be the all. It would be the partial. Okay, but because the creator is the all, there's nothing outside of the creator. So all of this is within. But remember, ancient Kemet puts us in touch with nature. Nature. That's where the word nature comes. You know, nature comes from the word nature. And today, religion doesn't teach you anything about nature because it wants you to be a slave to whoever that is controlling that religion. And so most people who are into Islam, Christianity, Judaism are ignorant of the rest of the world. They're ignorant of nature. And it's important for you to be one with nature. And so you need to understand this. Every mask had a uniform that went with it. Every mask had its own rhythm, its own drum beat, and its own dance, because they were in tune. Most of them are dealing with harvest, how to care for the village. This one had the heads all the way around because it looked out. It was a protection type of helmet. So no matter who entered the village, you would be able to see, because there's a head in all four directions. So, you know, I wanted to again express the importance of culture and express, once you're outside of your culture paradigm, you no longer have medicine to heal yourself. And that's why we're so sick right now as an African people. We're outside of our culture. We wear somebody else's clothes. We're speaking somebody else's language. We're eating somebody else's food. So we need to get back to our own tropical food. We need to get back to our own clothes. And Rich, that's not wearing dresses, okay? It's okay to wear a lapa or wraparound or a long throw or a galabia type of thing, okay? So, you know, and stop these tight pants, brothers, and pull your pants up. Man up.
You can contact you for, you know, anything you got going on. So
okay. You can contact me at, my Gmail is mfundishijhutyms @gmail.com. So you can read me. When I put my phone number, I got people calling me all around the country, and they don't have nothing to say. They were like, yo, Mfundishi, this you? I was just chilling, watching you on Rich, you know. What's happening, brother? Listen, say this to me. If you're getting ready to call me, say, can I email him this, or can I text him? So text me or email me. I got people who will call, and they don't really have nothing to say, but hi. You can email me that. I'm in the middle of a meeting and somebody calling me. Yo, Mfundishi, what's up? I'm from Texas. Okay, I'm happy that y'all are happy. But email me or you know, or give me the text. So the number is 347-792-9138. Text me.
Peace.